All right, so a little cafecito to us all, to you, Ted, Wolfson, thank you for joining us. And thank all of you for joining us today. We've got two guns in the metaverse that are going to be sharing to us what's going on, and more importantly, how can we get involved? So these companies are Oracle, a computer software company, and Alakazam. Excited to hear more about Alakazam. So what will you learn today? You will gain a holistic understanding of career opportunities in the metaverse, and specifically, what are the skills and tools and platforms you need to know to get involved in the metaverse, aka extended reality, and what are the business applications that Oracle and Alakazam are seeing worldwide. And now I'm very proud to introduce to you our guest speakers. Ted, you might want to wave a little hello. There he is. Gotten to know
Hey,
Ted
Professor.
for a few weeks. Super cool guy. Excited for you to meet him. Ted works for Oracle, specifically in their sectors of government and education. He is the Chief Innovation Technologist. I love that title. So he's got years of experience working with commercial and government sectors, Fortune 500, Silicon Valley startups, and he's a consultant for famous artists, creatives, and organizations on technology and Web3. I'm also excited to introduce to you Wolfson. So Wolfson, you want to say hello? I love your background. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And actually, well, we'll talk more in a minute. So about Wolfson, he is your immersive technology advocate at Oracle, developer relations, and he's all about 3D innovation, Web3, and avatars, gaming, esports. He's our guy. He's our guy. And we will have also joining us Chuck Carter, who's the Chief Creative Officer of Alakazam. So with that being said, a little bit about myself and MDC. My name is Max Ramirez. I'm a professor of digital marketing here, and your go-to for this beautiful space called the BIT Center. So BIT is a short little acronym for Business Innovation and Technology. So what we're doing for our business students, specifically those studying finance, let me show you our finance lab. Look at this thing. That is like very inspirational, to say the least, a partnership with Bloomberg. And this is our social media lab. So students interested in business, finance, marketing, in addition to getting their degrees, we're enhancing your competitive edge with industry recognized certifications and what all employers want, some hands-on experience in your field. So enough about MDC and me. Take it away, Ted and Wolfson. Thank you for joining us. I'll be monitoring the chat room for your questions.
Hey, Professor, thank you. I'll start today. I'm not going to
Ted,
spend a lot.
We can't hear you. You're
Can you hear me now?
for some reason?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we heard you earlier. I don't know.
I can hear you. Can you hear
And
me?
Wolfson, can you say hello?
Yeah,
I can-
yeah, I'm
I
saying
can-
hello.
You know what? Let me make sure that both of you are co-hosts.
I can hear you,
So-
Ted, though. So
I can hear you, Wojciech. Yeah,
No, you should
Professor,
be.
I think it might be you.
Nope, we can't
It
hear
might-
you.
Hold on
Nice.
there. All right.
And Wolfson.
Professor Ramirez, I think we can't. You're the only one that can't
Huh.
hear us. Maybe something
This is
happened when you.
interesting. 2 minutes ago it was working, and Ted, now we cannot hear you. How about now?
I'm good.
Ted? Nope.
Can-
Nope,
it
nope,
might-
nope. Let
Testing,
me try
testing.
something else. Give me one quick second.
Here, let me see if I can message.
I think Zara says that she can hear us. So it's
Yes,
might
yes, I
be-
see. I see that.
Professor.
I think it's just the professor.
Hmm.
Somehow he lost the speaker, but we'll give it a second here.
We're good.
Okay, good. Are we good? You can hear us now?
Perfectly.
All right. Such is technology, right? So if we were in the metaverse, we probably wouldn't have had that problem. But I'll just do sort of a quick thank you for the introduction. Just a little quick overview of what I get to do in the world. I am part of, and Wojciech as well, we're both part of the Web3 and immersive working group, XR, whatever you want to call it, within Oracle. We get to do these crazy and fun things across the board. I get to, and this spans both commercial, government, and education sectors that we get to play in. And I'm my facilitation today is more of the proctor. I get to show up and do fun things. I get to do these, and discover what's happening in the space. And one of the things that I discovered recently was this company Alakazam, which we'll kind of get into with Chuck, and also as we kind of explore where technology is going. We have this different teams within Oracle, but one of the most exciting teams is the developer relations teams, which is where Wojciech is on. And so in combination, what we end up doing is working with different entities across, like I said, across the full spectrum of companies, businesses, government, to provide these solutions and talk about solutions. I'm not here to sell anything today. It's the role that I'm in is in what we call a field sales role. But I just say that because sometimes when students are looking at technology, they're only looking at, okay, I'm going to go in computer science and then learn these facets of this and become a developer or do a startup or whatever. But there's an entire organization out there that is helping folks provide solutions and see solutions and understand where the technology fits, and that's where I come in. And so I just throw that out there that I'm on LinkedIn. Anybody that could get in touch with me there if they're interested in what we call pre-sales and those types of things out there, would be very happy to chat about that. But so I'm going to share my screen just briefly, and this is just an agenda slide for today. Are we seeing that? We seeing that screen? I'll keep it in
perfectly.
I'm not gonna. I'll just keep it there because I'm gonna unshare in a few moments. But so today's agenda, we've done the introductions. We're super excited to be speaking here at Miami-Dade College. A really great, innovative community college. I think one of the biggest, if not the largest enrollment in the United States. Very exciting. You guys down there, the folks down in Miami, are at the epicenter. There's a few of these spaces around, but you're definitely at the epicenter of what I would call Web3, immersive, and this new era of what we're going to be calling the internet. In the near future, if you haven't already seen it. And this isn't about NFTs and all that. This is really about individual contribution and content. And so one of the things with the metaverse is really and critical is content development. Chuck's going to get into that. But also being able to see how it's applied. And I think Wojciech is going to talk a little about that and the tooling there. So I'm going to turn it over to Wojciech right now. I'm going to unshare and take it away.
Thank you, Ted. I am gonna share my screen. Thank you for the intro. Very excited to be here. I'm just gonna sort of kick it away by doing a short intro. So my name is Wojciech. Yes, I've been at Oracle for like, I think just over 7 years now. I'm a family man first and foremost, but overall, I'm also a bit of a geek. I had an interest in 3D ever since I was young. Always kind of area fascinated me, and from gaming and to any sort of other like 3D printing and stuff like that. So also interested into football, or you call it soccer, and a bit of a mountain biker. One thing I wanted to actually highlight, because obviously we're talking to the business audience here, and business students, is that I actually have, before joining Oracle, I spent a long time at Nestle and various other businesses where, there wasn't sort of the technology wasn't at the forefront of what they were doing, and it was very interesting to gain that experience outside of sort of technology world and that sort of business acumen. So so for you, planning your careers and thinking about what you want to do, it's the paths usually are interesting and never a straight line. At least it wasn't in my sort of example, but certainly having that sort of unique perspective from both business and technology side of things, I think it helped me a lot throughout my career. So it's definitely something that is worth as an experience, because I think a couple of years ago, I think everybody wanted to do game development and get into gaming and stuff like that. But I think what I'm seeing is there's a lot of people coming out of the, doing the sort of gaming degrees, going to those big gaming houses, and it's not as exciting as they thought. And I think the business and enterprise space, it's probably not as appealing as the gaming itself, but it's certainly emerging into something a bit more, and it's much bigger. So so just thought I'd throw a few cents here. So I think overall, and my slides are relatively brief and high level, but open for any questions for that you have. So what I'm going to start with is like the whole, I think as a species, we're going through a massive sort of evolution of interactions, and it's been a fascinating journey to actually see how we interact with the technology, and how that actually changed over years, right? So we moved from this sort of device-centric approach into this interface-driven with the different sort of ways of how we interact with it. And the last few years, we had more sort of investment into the conversational interfaces, and that kind of is driving the overall, I guess, this move from the technology from this effort driven into more sort of intuitive, seamless, and user-friendly, right? And as we add the different sort of types of how we interact with the experiences and technology, I think it creates a level of higher immersion, rather than command-driven, more into the dialogue and anticipation. And what we're also seeing is obviously overall that the use of 3D technology is much more engaging to the brain. So there's been count of studies that actually prove that the human brain is responding better to when it's interacting with 3D technologies, because it's stimulating different areas. And I think as we see now with the metaverse and overall gaming and esports and everything like that, we're seeing definitely a new paradigm of the possibilities, right? That this opens from both the consumer side of it and enterprise, right? We're having those digital experiences like games that are high fidelity or even low polygon arcade, and esports for the consumer side of it. We're seeing communities and worlds that are being created where people can meet and sort of collaborate and exchange, as well as e-commerce and so on is giving us a sort of new ways of shopping and so on. So it's certainly an interesting sort of how it evolves and how that is changing. So, and then from the human side of it, from the enterprise side of it, we're also seeing various ways of how we can apply some of those principles and improve trainings or create digital simulations and scenario planning, where we can actually create the situations where things are tested, simulated, or learned quicker. So I think and overall I think that generative AI is really sort of helping us to be faster and create more engaging content that can be applied to the sort of two spectrums.
Hey, Wojciech, could you talk a little bit about, so we know that NVIDIA is having their conference right now, and you just mentioned the generative AI. I mean, are you, what are your thoughts on this acceleration? Because I'm seeing things just accelerate, since I first met you in the last year or so in this Web3 and immersive space, things have just really taken off. And since you mentioned, I just like to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, super exciting. I think the way it's, I think the words was used, we are at, sorry, my slides just keeps moving. So I think, yeah, some of the words that were mentioned are, it's was iPhone moment of the AI, and I think what we're seeing is that there is certainly a shift now in terms of the skills that we're going to need going forward, and especially the acceleration of the workflow. 3D experiences can take a long time to create. Some of the assets can take fairly a long time, and if you are, I don't know, e-commerce provider that has thousands of assets, and you're looking to create some sort of 3D experience and essentially digitalize all and create 3D assets of those models that you have, the generative AI can hugely accelerate that process, and definitely don't make that you as a company going to pay an arm and leg for such a process. So I think it's going to definitely accelerate and hopefully give us the tools for anyone to create tools faster, prototype faster, and be much more agile in the process. So I think I am actually very excited, and there's, like you said, a lot of different announcements being made. I personally love how all of a sudden everything is about ChatGPT and OpenAI. Last year there have been some other companies mentioned, but now everybody's talking about it, and NVIDIA sort of been talking a lot about this. So it's exciting times that we live in, I think.
Yeah, and that's and that's exactly where I think I was. There's just such an acceleration right now in the space that this is really, it really is that iPhone moment that I'm seeing. So it may not be quite apparent what's really happening out there, but both from a content perspective, we're going to need accelerated content. AI will do portions of this, and one of the fun things that we get to play with is Oracle does have this partnership with NVIDIA. So it's why I'm kind of bringing them up, and it's really just the sky's the limit. There is really nothing holding it back right now. I mean, there could be ethical and other discussions around that, but from a technical perspective and how we put these things together, it's never been, or it's starting to get very easy, right? To do some very powerful and very enriched things. So really,
I'd like to
really
make a
exciting.
quick little comment, and actually before I do, I'd like to welcome Chuck Carter. I want to say hello, and for our audience, honestly, I'm almost beside myself, to have Ted, Baltic, Chuck Carter here in one room with us. And you say the name Chuck Carter at Comic-Con. There's people that wish they could even talk to the guy, and here he is in front of us. So thank all three of you for joining us. So Voltic, my little comment is back to that previous slide, which I was fascinated with, the evolution of interactions. So back in the day, being able to click was like, wow, like I'm choosing to do this. Then it evolved with technology to touch and swipe, talking. Now we're getting into this next phase of technology with the metaverse and AI, where now it's gestures and gazes and being able to, here's where I'm going with, being able to gauge moods and senses. We've always heard that in a conversation when someone speaks, was that guy joking? We've all said that, was he joking? And now maybe I'm just hypothesizing here, maybe in the world of metaverse and data, when people are interacting, someone says a statement and data will show, no, that was a serious comment, not a joke. So like right now, we don't know, we're kind of assuming, but when you're in this world of data and metaverse and people are talking, maybe AI can say, no, that was a serious comment, or no, that was a joke. Just some insight, some fantasy talk.
Makes sense.
What do you guys think?
Well, Professor, I think that right now, and so where it's really important to kind of think about is, well, we're talking about Chat GPT and where generative and deep learning and neural net models are going, it still requires a ton. It's actually still quite expensive, and it requires quite a few GPU. And so I think as what you're saying from that interaction or that truly immersive, truly sort of that reality space, an ontological view of that, looking at how both our interactions and our gestures and those things may be both monitored, which again, that gets into that ethics space potentially, or augmented in the sense of helping people, from an autistic community even perspective. Those things can play into this. So, it gets into healthcare and such. But as the compute gets, cheaper, and more widely available, and I think we're seeing that now as of March, really, 2023. The availability is there, but as it starts to get cheaper and cheaper, so that there's larger groups of access that can come in and augment these systems, I think that's when we're really going to see kind of what you're talking about, because then these startups they're not going to have to seek millions and millions of funds to do some fairly enriched work. So I think that's in the next very next step. That's coming up, and that's kind of the stuff that we're working on, which is a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you, Wolfson. Keep on going. You're doing great. You're on fire.
Thank you. Well, speaking of data, obviously, it's always a big a conversation in terms of the data, the ownership, and what is actually allowing us to see and how it's allowing us to improve. And with the generative AI now, we're seeing we can put it to use in ways that we probably didn't even think about. Oracle's mission has always been about the data, right? We used to be database company, and there you go, I said it. I think now we are a data company. So I think for us, it's all about how we can use and process the data, process the workloads, and help people discover new insights. And it doesn't matter whether it's the 2D data, which is the financial or ERP-based one? Is it the three-dimensional data coming from the IoT, whether it's the data, behavioral data from the virtual, augmented, or mixed reality? For us, it's all about how do we process that data and give people, experiences that and host those experiences at scale that allows people to, deliver on their goals. And I think that's been sort of the fundamental mission of Oracle, and this is kind of where we've been sort of playing, because I think it's quite easy to kind of start thinking, oh well, Microsoft has this, or AWS has different sort of capabilities. I think for us, we've been focusing on two things, whereas helping 3D creators like Alakazam, to run their experiences on the infrastructure that we provide, but we're not in the sort of the words of that front end of that creators. We are the enablers. We are the technology that sits underneath it, and letting guys like Alakazam shine, and I think this kind of where we fit in that sort of ecosystem. So we're really focusing on how we actually helping developers to write less code, create services that are a flick of a kind of button in terms of on and off, to setting up the sort of underlying infrastructure. That's kind of where we fit in that cycle. And I think what you can do is you can find a fair bit of resources online, and this is not what I wanted to see, which are, you can join our Slack channel, which is Oracle Developer Relations, and there you can, learn a lot about and find a lot of resources from, both either the hands-on labs or any sort of, content that we created, or also exchange and learn about some of the sessions that we're running. I mean, we've done a fair few of different experiences. Just how are we doing for time? So I'm gonna go through this relatively quickly, but some of the things that we've done as part of the sort of exploration of the data is we played with some of the esports And so we've done a fair bit of work with the Red Bull as part of their partnership. This is actually mayor of
That's so
Madrid. We had the Max doing some labs for us on it, and essentially what we're doing is streaming the data from the game, so that we can, capture the labs and capture, what people are doing, and then, processing that data almost like from the performance improvement perspective. So
this is Wojciech's day job, by the way. This is what he does. So, this is, for the students that are looking to get into technology, it's not just about, some boring stuff here. So I just, it's really a lot of fun. Sometimes, it's not all fun and games, but this part is. So
yeah, exactly.
Wojciech gets to work with Formula One and Red Bull. I mean, how cool is that? That's amazing.
And travel the world too. So yeah.
Travel the world. Yeah, with the two kids, can be quite difficult. But yeah. I mean, some of the things is like, so we've, once you have that data, what do you do with it? So we played, it in various tools like Blender, which I think are probably keen to, to understand in terms of overall 3D interactions. We did some events. We've built some different simulators and had some fun while we're doing that. Again, trying to build solutions that can help people like Chuck and that team. So I think they use some of the principles of the pixel streaming quick starts that we also develop, which is essentially allowing to run Unreal in a browser. So so there's a fair bit of stuff that we did in terms of the visualization of the largest Pi cluster, which had 1,000 Raspberry Pis essentially connected. So we had our cloud world, and then we connected it up and visualized it as a digital twin. So trying to push the boundaries. I'm just going to skip through making some people and chatbots, visualizing some boats from the Sail GP, working with some training, making sure that employees know how to use the stuff like the fire extinguishers and so on, trying to, learning to the closest to doing using the VR. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we did, and I don't want to take too much time because I want to give Chuck his time. But if you guys want to sort of connect, ask me any questions, here's my QR code for my LinkedIn. More than happy to, answer any of your questions, whether it's from the tooling, career, or whatever you have that you want to ask me. Just feel free to reach out, and I'll be very excited to help you. Hopefully I didn't take too much time.
Right on time, man. Right on time.
Excellent.
All right. So we're gonna turn it over to Chuck Carter. Chuck is well, I'll let him introduce himself, but Chuck, it's a great honor that I get to work with Chuck while they're running on Alakazam on Oracle. And it's just a very exciting space to be in. Their team is making Metaverse from a business perspective. They're making it cost effective, and that's kind of why I'd mentioned that a little bit earlier. But really making it so it's accessible and easily done in some sense. And so where Wojciech was talking about content and that the hurdles to get there, that's where Chuck's going to be talking, or at least kind of shed some light on that today, and see where this is going, and I hope offer an exciting space for the students to kind of take a look at as well after this. So, all right, take it away, Chuck. I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, my background. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Let's had some issues at the beginning. Awesome.
Good, yeah.
All right. Yeah, my background has been video games and informational graphics, I guess you could say. It included, I worked on a game, this game called Myst a long time ago. And it did fairly well in the marketplace, and people still talk about it even today, surprisingly. But I've done about 26 other games beyond Myst, along the Command and Conquer series and Red Alerts and dozens of other games, essentially covering virtually every genre in the past. And informational graphic wise, I work with a lot of data, not the same kind of data, but for NASA, National Geographic, I do a lot of illustration, some animation for them as well. That's kind of my side business. But our focus primarily at Alakazam is making essentially a 3D web experience where it's partially a social experience where you can invite your friends, you can create your own avatars. The avatars are full body, full motion. We were talking a little earlier about being able to understand intent, about the emotional quality of what people are saying online. It's a very difficult thing to read. And avatars don't make it any easier unless you have like a little hand raise or a little heart emoji and things like that. That's kind of where we are right now. And it's not as exciting as the racing and the Formula One stuff, because we are trying to essentially create spaces for people to have, an alternative to Zoom, alternative to, Google Meet and things like that, where they can meet and have their meetings. We can make them information rich, in as far as being able to put up literally any kind of information you want in the scenes to be able to share that with people. And we make it available on, just from the web browser. That's the big thing, is that you don't have to download an app. You don't have to, really do anything special other than just log into the site. And then from that point on, you can select a particular world you like and invite other people to that site. You can even go as far nowadays to create your own domain of an account. We have a subscription service, which you can tie your own domain or create a new domain just for your 3D space. I'll share my screen and kind of show you just a little example of one of our spaces here. Let me see, make sure I get the right one. All right, there we go. Share. All right, so I'm assuming you guys can see this little space here with the pink and orange and everything, right?
Yep, coming through.
Okay, so this is just one of our meeting spaces. This is a space where it can run on your phone, you can run it on your laptop, it can run literally anywhere you want it to be at. And we have like spaces where you can put anything in here, 3D models, you can customize it, place all sorts of things in here. You can even have a movie. If you wanted to do a movie here, you can just simply walk up to this space right here, and I can just come up and then create. It's going to be kind of boring, obviously, but it's our thing. So we can put like an image. I'll just start off with an image right here, and I'll just put this up here, and I create an object, and boom, I have an image, so I can walk up to it. Oops, so put that in there. And that could be a video, that could be a movie, that could be a GIF, that could be a spreadsheet, that could be literally anything you want to put up in there. And we can put that in there. There's lots of other places where there are areas where you could add additional types of information. The spaces are designed to be explored. And right now I'm running in first person, so I can change that to third person. So you can sort of see our third person avatar. And we have different, more communal spaces in here for your communities. If you want to have a meeting, events, whatever it is, that we're trying to appeal to a much broader audience than your typical thing. We want to make this as easy as opening up Facebook, and to be able to invite your friends, your families. Really, we want to democratize this in a way that we think Facebook missed out on, and some of the other ones. We have a lot of the features that you have with some of that other stuff, except it works really well. And we have a very small team. There's very few of us right now that are working here. But, we are very dedicated to making these things, functional. We want to make them stand out, in as far as what, other people are doing. We don't try to make our stuff cartoony. Let's move off that. One of the things that we try to do is it works off of hubs. And we created Alakazam essentially with hubs as sort of the way that we build our spaces out on, and then we publish them into Alakazam. And we also have currently, I can't really show it just yet because we've been working on it, but we have a Unity version of this that also works the same way. And the Unity version gives us so much more power. It gives us gameplay ability. It gives us interaction. Right now, with the limitations of the technology, we can't really do too much other than we can fly, which is kind of cool. You can go up to the top of these buildings. You can fly all around the scene. We let you get around that way. And when you have about, 30 or 40 people in one of these scenes, you'll see that very quickly people are flying all over the place and interacting and just generally having a good time. And, this is just one of our scenes. If I wanted to change it to a different scene, I can just come over here and click on this. and change my scene and find a different one. We have a variety of things here, which I can show you. We have our loft, which is something that a lot of people like. We've got a meeting area right here. We've got a camping area, which is a lot of fun. And you can come over here and just go back to first person and switch over. Yeah.
Is this a one-to-one, a personal experience, or can you have hundreds of people in here?
You can't have hundreds because we have to work definitely within the open the link. I'll have to switch this over to Chrome. I'm sorry, I'm using Safari. That's evil. Safari is one of those things that if anybody works with any of this stuff, you'll find that quickly that Safari is not very friendly. And so let me go here real quick and switch out. Yeah, so it's basically you can invite as many people as you like. So I go over to this. Before I go and move over to this other space. So I'm sorry, I've been cranking lately, trying to finish up we're designing a website, a brand new website, and that's been my focus for the last week. I've been buried in that. So yeah, like for this scene here, it's just one example, where we have people in it. We can put as many. We had an event with a large PR firm out of New York City where we had a Christmas party, and they had up to almost 100 people in it, and they were separated out into a couple of different spaces, and they were just having a ball. We decorated it like a Christmas party thing, a holiday theme party. Let me get over here back to Chrome, and I'll open up this other space here. I apologize. Everything we build out here, by the way, is built in. Everything is built in Blender for the most part. Let me take this in.
And Chuck, I'll mention. Professor, Alakazam took what is Mozilla Hubs originally, and has now ported it to a version with the blessing of the Mozilla folks. They've ported it to what will be a sort of open framework, if you will, and that aligns very well with where Oracle goes with our openness and open technology and open source. But if you took a look at Mozilla Hubs, you'll see a lot of the commonality there. The back end is Erlang for messaging and such, and some neat things on the backside. But the scalability, that's kind of where Wojciech and I were talking about Oracle and the platforming. It's only going to get better, right? And so where Alakazam has really shined in this space is, number one, you can see the avatars have legs. The content is really super rich, and what Chuck and that team is doing to optimize this space is really, I think, at the cutting edge. So I just wanted to mention that for one of the reasons why I get very excited about working with Alakazam, because they have that open vision, but then that content rich and then that optimized focus to get 100 people in one of these rooms. Because if you've experienced any other types of metaverse, you could see varying degrees of success and failure. Whereas I think that Alakazam is really taking it, not to sell it too hard, but really taking this into that space of, wow, we could get maybe 1,000 people in there in short order very soon, right? So
I love the way Chuck began, just from a business application versus everyone joining into Zoom. Why not have a screen where you present your Excel sheet, your PowerPoint in this beautiful room to create what we were talking about earlier, a type of mood, a type of sense. It's just going to enhance the whole experience, the vibe of the communication.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that we want to do. And as you were talking about, can you see my screen now? You guys have that up there? The avatar, yeah, we have an avatar browser with just a standard single avatar, but we have a bunch of featured ones, and we're constantly adding to this. We have in the queue right now about 30 or 40 more avatars we're going to be adding. And at some point, we'll be able to do some editing where you can actually personalize them a lot better than we can right now. If you need to personalize it, you can go to Ready Player Me and then basically swap out literally anything from the shape of your face and your body and your clothing, hats, any accessories, costumes, whatever. But this is our current selection. And like say if I want to pick out one, and I pick out this guy and I jump in and enter the room and let me go and get this away from first person. So you can sort of see that we're trying different things as far as the looks and feels of rooms. We don't want to give everybody the standard cartoony stuff that we've seen, or to the stuff that's so far out that nobody can identify with where they're at. We have a very distinct visual aesthetic that we work towards. This is something that just more of a, if you're having a company meeting at night and you guys want to talk about and have beers in the comfort of your own home, you could be in a campground area. You can be literally any place we want. We can change this space out. Hopefully being in Chrome, this won't be a difficult thing now. I can go into, this is sort of what we call the loft. And let me get out of there.
Seems to be stuck. It looks like it's stuck on the loft screen, Chuck, at least from what I'm seeing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't sure. No, we're not.
Is it there now?
At least on my screen. I'm looking at the loft and it says nobody else is here. Use the invite button.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It may have lost the screen. But so Chuck,
but
just
anyway,
as an example,
yeah.
how long does it take for your team to put one of these? Now these are fairly enriched environments. Like what is the development process like for Alakazam? Just to give folks, the students, some perspective on that.
Yeah, the development process is a scene like the loft, for instance. This was about a 3-week project to build it out. And typically part of that 3 weeks, there's a good solid week of optimization where we make it so we add all the light baking, which basically means we can bake in the shadows and all the textures and everything. So we get a much richer looking experience with a limitation of 50,000 polygons. So if anybody here is a 3D artist or budding 3D artist, we're limited to 50,000 polys and 15 megabytes of textures and materials. So we're very limited in how we can literally put one of these scenes up to work along all of the platforms. We use Blender for everything.
Jack, just a quick one. So 50,000, that's because of obviously the web VR, right?
Yes.
I think the Oculus one, I think that goes around 150,000
it does.
to perform, right? But because everything is in the browser, that's a very steep limit, especially when
it's
a
very steep limit.
Video,
I mean,
right?
we worked with Comic-Con, where we had they gave us a scene and it started at somewhere around 600,000 polygons and they had like 50 people in it. And obviously it was choking. So we went back into it and kind of optimized it as much as we could and did things to it to where we actually got it to run, not without a bunch of hiccups along the way, but it was running on hubs and we managed to get it to work. So there are limitations that you can, push past if you want to. But every time you do that, you're talking about getting hit on frame rate. So right now we average anywhere between 30 and 90 frames a second with our scenes, and we can get a good, comfortable 20 to 30 people in a scene without too much of a hiccup. We can go larger, but the more people you add, then when you're talking about a web-based solution for this sort of thing, and you want to play it on your desktop, it's great. When you start moving it to an iPad or an iPhone, you start seeing a cut in what the performance is. So we make specialized versions for phones and everything else that, kind of chops down even further. So we don't have the HDR, high dynamic range scenes and things like that for the phone. Whereas we can do things like that with other scenes, with the desktop stuff. So we do limit ourselves in that because of just the nature of what we're trying to do. We want to make this accessible literally to anyone who wants to have a space, who wants to have a meeting, or gather a club. We've got people who have clubs, different types of clubs where they meet in these spaces. With the full body avatars, we can do a lot with, that's not necessarily with the animation of their faces and facial features, but we can do a lot with icons, with emojis, and you can select a whole bunch of different things, sad faces, happy faces, a variety of different things where you can then kind of like say, I'm happy, I'm not, But we have sitting down, we have waving, we have put your arm up. We have a bunch of new animations that we're constantly improving on to help with that communicating with your fellow avatar. And we're trying to still keep everything to work within the context of being able to do this on literally any device. That it's not as sexy as you can with a regular video game. Our Unity-based product will allow us that game-based stuff, but that's still just a little ways out. But the stuff we're working on right now is designed for anybody to have a meeting and to showcase information and to have a productive meeting, because you can have a club and everybody can meet, and do a Zoom meeting or whatever. But on this, in our space, you can come in there and have very productive meetings. You can import 3D models into your space. And as you said before, we can do spreadsheets, web pages, videos, literally any kind of media that you can imagine, you can put into one of our spaces and have it work on your phone and on your desktop.
So Chuck, this is available right now. You can.
Yeah.
And
And
is there a fee? Is there a fee?
There, you can come in and explore for free, but if you want to actually, create your own space to be able to share that with other people, you have to have a subscription basis. And we have a $99 a month subscription just for the average user to come in, and they can come in and then use it unlimited. And we're adding rooms to this every month. We currently have about 12 different rooms and about 3 or 4 kind of non-official rooms that are in there. And we're constantly adding new stuff. So anybody right now can get in there and have meetings. And as I said before, we've had meetings with hubs. All the hubs guys came in, and people came in into one of the to our skyscraper scene you just saw, and then we went to the camping scene, and then we have a lighthouse scene where you can be on an island with a main lighthouse, and we had that, and all the hubs people were there, and there were like 20 people in that scene, and they were all walking around and flying and talking, and we were showing everything off, So this stuff is live right now, and
if
possible, and it's working.
Well, we've got 25 people in the audience. I mean, I don't know if this is possible, but I mean, would you consider a code where people could try it for 30 days?
I can give everybody a link if you want to. I haven't tried this before, so I'm not the usually one selling this. I focus on the art. I just, I'm the guy who sits. I'm the wizard behind the curtain who just knows how to make art. That's me, So
we got lucky to get Chuck today. So this is really exciting. But I want to make a comment about, so this is the current technology, right? And the limitations are based on the set of, as you heard, like it needs to be accessible, run in the browser, potentially run on the phone. There's things like, and again, I go back to the NVIDIA partnership here, Omniverse, right? So this is, as Alakazam starts moving into this more enriched or more powerful tech space, they'll be able to leverage the Oracle platform, if you will, to then expand their reach and also get into a much more enriched environment that might be able to get down to your phone in the very near future, based on some of the things with the pixel streaming and other things that NVIDIA is looking at. So it's really this. It's not just one company looking at this. It's really, when we're looking at what Metaverse is, it's really this collaborative, both from the power GPU side, but at the other end where Chuck's coming from, that creative side, and being able to give those rich environments. Because if the environments aren't fun to be in, it gets boring very fast. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I just stuck a link in the chat. I haven't done this before, so if you want to try it, I'm in the room right now. So I see people are joining now. So you'll have your avatar somewhere. Where's everybody? Oh,
very cool. I'm opening up the link that you sent in the chat room, Chuck.
And if you do have a Ready Player Me avatar, it will transport. So again, this isn't, Alakazam's looking at being this great, rich content space, providing this low-cost level metaverse accessible to everybody. But there's many other players out there that eventually, at least from a vision perspective, imagine this, the metaverses link up, right? And then we just jump from one to another, but we retain our identity. That's a little bit getting into Web3 now, right? So just an exciting integration that they have with Ready Player Me. If I join in, you'll see what I look like, but I won't do that just now. I don't want to end my Zoom call.
Ted, let me ask you this question. From Oracle's perspective, what industry sectors are quickly embracing metaverse? Is it health? Is it finance?
Absolutely health. I'm not sure so much about the finance side. I've not necessarily seen that. I know supply chain, government from a science perspective. Just imagine if we could be enriched into its a space of the Earth. I had my Earth up here before, but with real-time data coming in, right? So there's things like that that are being discussed. We're seeing, I think Europe is ahead of the US on this, by the way, at least from my perspective. Wojciech's over there in London. I think
we're seeing also a fair bit of generally places where there's onboarding of the staff. So if there is a levels of that you need to either whether it's manufacturing or whether it's knowing around your office and some areas where you want to get your staff up to speed in terms of certain activities or things that they need to perform. We've seen there's a fair bit of acceleration because the business value there is obviously the reduced time of the training, and then you get your employees being up to speed faster, right? And the interaction with the 3D creates that whole possibility to retain the data from learning longer and faster. So there's certainly a business case and sort of appetite in that sector, those sectors as well.
There is literally so much that you can do as far as the market for this and the application of this type of technology, even in a limited form of being able to use it just on the web. We've been approached. I've been approached because I have some connections with the state of Maine government who want to do some spaces that reflect an actual space for security reasons, how to protect power stations, to find out and duplicate an exact power station, for instance, to see where the vulnerabilities are, especially in today's climate where these things are being attacked, where we can literally recreate a space like that and then put people in there to see if they can infiltrate or how they would, what things they might do to damage it. There are, all sorts of different uses for this technology, beyond government education. We did a space for University of Massachusetts where we did the inside of a human cell, and that was the classroom was inside the cell where everything was accurate, where the instructor could point out all the various things in there, and and hold classrooms in there along with information about everything else. So it's really limited to. It's not limited at all. It's because it's open to whatever you can imagine. And we do custom work for certain clients right now, like the San Jose State University. We're building out an entire recruitment area for them when they're starting to bring students on board and talk about their library sciences. We have all sorts of different types of projects that we're working on that reflect real world, spaces. I mean, obviously, from my background, having been in games, games for me are very exciting. I find games sexy. I find them fun to make. I love the interactivity and the action involved in it, and we will be adding that sort of thing to this. But for right now, we're focused really just on the user experience and that it's as clean. I see a bunch of people flying around like in the space right now that I put up. So, it's hopefully it's working well.
Right.
It's hard to tell.
We're down to our last 10 minutes. And Chuck, thank you for that amazing presentation. Thank all of you. So with the last 10 minutes, what I'd like to focus on is our students who are studying finance, business, project management, animation, a lot of transferable skills into the industry of the metaverse. What's your advice to them? Yes, they're going to graduate with degrees, but what should they be learning? What platforms are available? And I know Wojciech sent us many resources, so thank you for that. But in your opinion, how can they make themselves more attractive with respect to skills for the metaverse industry? What are your suggestions?
I'll start out from the art side, and I know that I'm not the only one here who's an artist. But Blender is free. Ooh. It's very powerful. If you can learn Blender, you can virtually learn any other 3D program. That's a skill from an art side, which is undisputably one of the best, most powerful packages out there now. Especially if you're in college and you don't want to spend a lot of money on an actual commercial product. Blender is as powerful, if not more powerful, than many of the commercial products, in my opinion. You've got two different game engines. I'm an Unreal person myself. I prefer Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine 5 is, if you're wanting to get into games, I would go in, create your own spaces in Unreal 5, create your own mini games, things like that. That sort of thing really makes a big difference. Understanding that. Unity is another one. There's a lot of different things out there that you could utilize that are free resources. And understanding how those look and then being able to prove that in a portfolio, which you're going to be eventually sending to some potential employers, that's going to be really important as well. So you can kind of show off your skills, keeping that simple and keeping only the best stuff up online. There's a lot more to it than 10 minutes can talk about, but that would be my advice, just to learn the good stuff that's free and get really good at it.
That was huge. I've not being an artist, I've not heard of these companies or these software, Blender, Unreal, and Unreal 5 and Unity. So thank you for that, Chuck.
Yep.
Blender is definitely one. I mean, Oracle, as of last year, we've been supporting the Blender project. It's open source. It's amazing from, like Chuck said, just to even get understanding around the concepts of the 3D models of,
Yep.
you know, things like origins or of your objects, or you know, how to you know, model things and you know, the meshes and stuff like that, and even the lighting. I mean, obviously ChatGPT can now create the scripts for you. So Blender has a built-in Python module, which essentially you can also use to create some you know, art essentially from code. It's so even, you know, kind of having the acumen to actually understand what you need to create, it's obviously the main thing. So, and that comes from practice. So I think, you know, these are certainly a few things to mention around Blender itself. I would add to that is definitely having, and that is probably outside the technical itself. I think, you know, trying to think about and applying, you know, any type of skills from the project management and agile, you know, it's always good. You know, having that sort of you know, understanding of how to deliver and bring the projects over the line, that's also a very useful skill. But also trying to think about, you know, are you designing for? So having some sort of human-centered design approach, obviously, you know, starting with why you're building products, having that you know, as part of your you know, principles before you start, you know, digging into the technologies. That can also be very useful, because yeah, in some cases, you know, building it that is something that is cool is one thing, but you know, having that then, you know, turning into something that can, you know, be a bit bigger than that's another.
Well,
And
Jack,
I
a
think
quick question out of curiosity, that experience, Metaverse for Formula One, that was created for them, and that's, I mean, it's amazing. Is that proprietary? Do they own that now? That Metaverse?
No, so that is essentially just being a bit sort of cheeky, to be honest. And so the game that you saw, that's actually official F1 game, and within that game you can open a stream of data, and essentially using some, you know, our Oracle technology in this case, you know, we are able to stream that data into the database and then build analytics. So I can tell, so I can compare my lap, for example, to Max Verstappen lap and see how bad I am. Essentially,
he was the only one that could run. You told me this, Wojciech, we were standing there as I'm watching him drive. He was the only one that could drive without the assist. Correct.
Yeah,
correct. And he was the fastest time. So when you talk about real skills, Professor, it was demonstrated directly with Max driving that, and then with, I don't know how many people did the thing at the Cloud World, Wojciech? How many?
Just short of 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody could beat him. Well, I think one person got close on one round, but that was still with the assist on. So just to give you an example, I know that we're at time, but I think one of the things that I've found very interesting is I look at where we're going as a production companies, like movie productions, right? So because if you're going to look at how you come together from both a project, how it's financed, all the people, places, things, and the technology that have to come together, I actually think the movie industry is a great model for where we're going in the very near future for this. So I just wanted to throw that in, because that may not be where folks are thinking, but and that literally spans from finance to any of the creative or even, you know, liberal arts level types of stuff. If you take a look at those things, be able to think of it in that project sense, and really look at it from a movie perspective or a creative, you know, what am I producing kind of perspective, that gets you into the metaverse front and center. And it's the launch pad for Web3. So.
Any last comments, guys? Thank you. We've learned a lot of wisdom bombs here and visuals and inspiration. So thank you for making time for us, for students, the next generation, right, of Metaverse users, CEOs and entrepreneurs.
And well, I said they don't necessarily need to learn Blender to do the stuff that in Alakazam's. There are some easier editors too. So just keep in mind, it's not just get to learn Blender. It's like just experiment. I think that's the last comment I have. Yeah,
Spoke. With Hubs, you can go to Hubs, and they have a program, an aspect of it called Spoke, which lets you just start building anything. It has all the templates. You can just start building your own world without any experience whatsoever, just to get a feel for it, and then walk around it and bring your friends and everything else. It's that easy. You start making something, you publish it, you keep the address, and boom, you can start making people, or asking people to join you, and create a space as imaginative as you want it to be without being an artist, or you can even be a programmer. So.
Thank you for that. One quick question from Caleb, and she's asking, do you have any recommendations, sites, courses to learn Blender? I mean, right off the bat, I'm thinking YouTube, but
I did post a link there. Andrew Price, I happen to like him a lot. I've
He's
learned
good.
Blender from him. He posts a lot of great things out there. He clicks fast, so you gotta have to, if you're new to Blender and there's a million different options, you're gonna watch it in that the 10 times slower speed. But I would highly recommend, at least for novice, try making the donut. Try to make a donut.
Right, and you go to Blender too. Blender has a whole tutorial series based around learning every single aspect of the program from a beginner standpoint. And between the Blender Guru and that, you'll have plenty of stuff. And then obviously YouTube. There's a million places on YouTube. Just look for the term beginner when you're starting out. That'll help you walk through a lot of the basics quickly.
Awesome. I'm just curious as to if we come together again 5 years from now, what are we going to be looking at in the metaverse, right? 5 years from now. It's exciting.
We won't be using Zoom.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody else, for logging in. And if you like a recording, happy to send you one. Just email me. And gentlemen, next time you're in Miami, please let me know. Love to meet you. And
coming down. Yeah, we're coming down.
Definitely.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks.
All right. See y'all later.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.